So today we're going to be creating a web browser. It's going to be a simple web browser, so there's no tabs and no history, things like that, but it will actually get you around the web, allow you to go backwards, forwards, refresh the page, go to a web address, search, and even change your search engine. This is the actual final product. So over here you can search things. So you want to search for a web browser, it'll search up web browser. If you want to change your primary search engine, so say you want to change it to Bing because you don't like Google, and next time you search, it'll search with Bing. Another feature would be over here on the address bar. You can't search things, but you can go to websites. So say you want to go to Google, you have to type in www.google.com and then go ahead and hit go. And it'll bring you to google.com. And down here is the actual status of the web browser. So say you're refreshing the page, it'll tell you it's refreshing and it'll tell you when it's done. You want to go back, you can go back, and you want to go forward, you can go forward. And that's pretty much all that the web browser will do. It's also going to be set up so that it can't get messed up as far as, where everything belongs. It'll all stay in its area where it was anchored. Alright, so you're going to want to go into Visual Studio and start a new project. It's going to be Visual Basic Windows and a Windows Form application. You want to go ahead and name this web browser. And go ahead and hit enter or click OK, and it'll load up. And we want to design our forms, so go ahead and drag this out to about 10,000 by, we'll do it this way. Excuse me, not 10,000, it'll be 1,000, 600. And that'll give us this look here. We want to go ahead and grab a web browser. We want to undock that if it docked, because we don't need that. Go ahead and drag it out to the edges of the form and leave some space up here for things like the search bar and the buttons. You really don't need all that much space. And at the bottom we want to leave a little bit of space for the label that will indicate what the actual browser is doing. And also you can change the background color of the form really to whatever you want. I'm just going to turn it to a gray color. And then also in the actual form settings and properties, you want to go ahead and change the window state to maximum, so it opens maximized. You want to change the minimum size to 1000 by 600. This is so that our anchored objects don't move around too much too small, because if the form gets too small, things start to move all over the place and it just doesn't look good. This is an easy way to avoid that and to have a minimum size so that it can't get too small that you can't find it, as if that would actually happen. Go ahead and rename your form, or not rename, but change the text to web browser, whatever you want to call it. And another thing we want to do is, I think that's actually it for this form. So now we're going to go ahead and start adding in the other things from the toolbox. So we're going to need two text boxes because we'll need search bar and address bar. So we're going to go ahead and drop those in there. Go ahead and put your search bar over here and your address bar over here, and make it a little bit longer than the search bar. And that should be good. We're going to go ahead and start adding buttons now. And we want to go ahead and size that down until it says but. And go ahead and place it here. And then copy and paste those, because we're going to need buttons that are about the same size for the top of the browser here. And that's for the refresh, the forward, and the back. This is for the go on the address bar. This one is for the search bar go, and this one is for the settings, which we'll put a little bit more to that side. And so now we want to start changing the text so that we know what they do. You could also go ahead and use images for the buttons, such as arrows, refresh symbols, things like that. But since this is a tutorial for a simple web browser, I'm just going to use symbols and letters so that we know the function of the button. So for example, the R stands for refresh, the forward and backward arrows are forward and backwards. And we're going to put go. and the buttons that actually will allow you to search and or go to an address. And then for the settings, I just want to do ... instead of typing out settings. And then we have the look that I had in the web browser that was shown in the beginning. We also need a label, because this is going to tell us the status of the web browser as it's doing things and what it is doing, if it's done, if it's searching, whatever it's doing. So you want to go ahead and position that nicely in the corner there. And then now we're going to want to start anchoring things so that they don't move out of place and they're all proportional to where they were. And so we're going to go ahead and change the the anchor of the web browser to all, top, left, right, and bottom. And then we're going to change the label to bottom left instead of top left, so it doesn't move out of the corner. We're going to start with the settings button. We're going to do top right instead of top left. And that's for everything on this side, really, so that it stays on the top right and doesn't go anywhere else. And it's not going to move down or up because there's other objects blocking it. So you shouldn't have to worry about that. But just as long as they're all anchored generally to where they are, and I think these ones should be alright because they're all top left already. And so if we start it up, we'll see that everything is where it should be, and it moved out further, but it still looks good. And so you see that's our minimum size, and that's our maximum size, and then there's sizes in between, and everything's going to stay proportional to the actual form. So we don't have to worry about anything, going out of place. Alright, and then one more thing before we are done designing this form. Actually, two more things. One thing is that we want to change the text of this actual this bar here, if I can find it. Let's see here. That was blank, so it's hard to find. We want to change that to search. And then I'll show you how to actually make that disappear when you click on it, and it says search in there. And then change the name of text box 2. You want to name that TXB search. And then you want to name the address bar TXB address. So that way we know which one is which. And then the one last thing is to add a timer, because we're going to need a timer for that label down there to actually tell us the status of the web browser. And so we want to name it TMR status. And then since that's the only label, we don't have to really rename that, but you do want to change the text to nothing. Another method would be to change this to invisible, otherwise visible not true on the form startup. But this is the easy way. Since we know where it is, we can just go ahead and put the text blank, and it's where we want it, so we really don't have to worry about it right now. And also, for the timer, we're going to want to set the enabled to true, so that way it's already enabled when the form loads. And so now we have our first form, and we need to go ahead and do project, add Windows form, and this will be form 2. We really don't have to name it anything. You could name it if you wanted to, but we really don't have to. First thing you're going to want to do is change sizable to fixed tool window. You're going to want to change the text to web browser settings, and then we're also going to want to go ahead and disable, or actually it's already disabled because there is no maximize box. So, but we also do want to change the start position to center screen, so that way it's not some random place on the screen. Want to go ahead and get a group box, place it in. Let's see here. There we go. And drag that down just a little bit, and we just need a button, as well as 2 radio buttons, because we want to have, and we also want to center that in the form so it looks good. And we need 2 radio buttons because these will be our options for the search menu, or excuse me, the search engine. And so we want to go ahead and select those and center them in the form. Everything should be set. We just want to change the text of this button to accept. And then we want to go ahead and change these radio buttons up here to say Google or Bing. And you could really do any search engine you want, or any 2 or any 4 or any, there could be any number. You just have to alter the code just a little bit, and it wouldn't be that hard. But I'm using Google and Bing because they're pretty much the 2 primary search engines that are around that everybody knows about. And so also we want to go ahead and change this group box text to primary browser. Excuse me, not browser, search engine. And that way we have primary search engine, Google or Bing, and of course you can add more options like I said. But since that's all for the design of this form, we're going to go ahead and get into the coding. Alright, to start coding, we're going to go ahead and start with Form 2. Go ahead and double click this so that the load event comes up. And we're going to just go ahead and type out some code here. We're going to do if my.settings .se is equal to Google, then we're going to want to have radio button 1 checked. So that way the Google radio button will be checked. And then of course else if my.settings.se, and for some reason it changed that to settings key, but we're going to go ahead and change that in a minute, is equal to Bing, then radio button 2 dot checked equals true, so that when the settings actually load, it'll have the right radio button selected. And now we're going to actually go ahead and right click web browser over here in the Solution Explorer, and you're going to get properties at the bottom, and we need to make some settings. And so the first setting we're going to make is going to be called SE, capital SE by the way, and we're just going to leave that blank. The second one is going to be called Google, and the third one is going to be called Bing. And those two are going to need a string. The links will be in the description. The first one is for Google, and that is going to be this link, which these will be once again provided in the description. And then the one for Bing will be in here. And then we're just going to go ahead and save that. Going back over to Form 2. And we're going to want to create, and my mouse disappeared because I'm on my other monitor, I'm referencing the original project. But we're going to go ahead and go into the design, double click the accept, and this is going to be a bit more code than the last part that we just did. So we're going to want to go ahead and do if radio button 1 dot checked equals true, then we're going to want to do my.settings.se equals, and then we're going to want to go ahead and put Google, because that would be, and we got to change this to SE so that doesn't throw an error. But so that way it'll be set to Google if radio button 1 is checked. And so the same thing, we'll do else if, and we'll do radio button 2 dot checked equals true. Then of course my.settings.se is going to be equal to Bing, so we're just going to copy and paste that so it's quicker, and we're going to put Bing. Alright, now we need to go ahead and make sure that the settings save and reload. So we're going to do my.settings.save and then my.settings.reload. And then that way the settings will be updated properly and saved. And that's going to be it for this form. So you can go ahead and either close out of Form 2 or just switch to a new, to the view of Form 1. And for Form 1, we're going to want to start in the load event. And we want to do web browser 1 dot suppress script errors, or script errors suppressed. So that way there's no errors being thrown, because this is an older we got to do equals true. This is an older version of a web browser. It's really bad. It's actually worse than Internet Explorer. And so basically there's going to be lots of web errors, and it's going to be showing a lot of the old versions of websites and things like that, because it's just not up to date, and it's not HTML5 or anything like that. It's just basic HTML, I think. I'm pretty sure. But basically this is just going to save you a lot of problems that would be there if we didn't do this. And so now we need to go ahead and create a new sub, call it sub, and we're going to do check address, and do parentheses, handles, oh, whoops, didn't want that in there, handles, we're going to do web browser 1 dot document, let's see, I think we're going to do document completed, yeah, and then it'll automatically generate the end sub, and we're going to do txb address dot text is going to equal our web browser 1 dot URL, and just to be safe we're going to do dot URL dot to string, just to be safe. Go ahead and save your progress just in case of any kind of system failure. And now we're going to want to go ahead and move on to the, let's see, we have the check address. We're going to want to go ahead and do the event for the timer tick, for timer status. So go ahead and double click timer status, or TMR status, and we want to do label 1 dot text equals web browser 1 dot status. Let's see if we can find it here. Status text. And I think, yeah, we probably should just do dot to string, just to be safe once again. And then let's see here. I think the rest of everything that we're going to do is just going to be buttons. So we're going to go into the web browser, or excuse me, the form design, and start all the way over here with the back button. And for this one, we're actually going to do if web browser 1 dot can go back, then I'm going to go ahead and create the end if. Then we want to do web browser 1 dot go back, and this will check to see if you were previously on a web page. If you weren't, it can't go back, it's not going to waste the time, and if you were, it'll be allowed to go back. And we're basically going to do the same thing for this, except it's going to be if web browser 1 can go forward, then we're going to go ahead and do web browser 1 dot go forward. It's pretty straightforward. Go forward. And then that way, once again, it'll check to make sure that you were already on a web page, whether it was in front or behind, and that way it doesn't waste its time with trying to go back when it can't. Alright, so now we want to do the refresh. This one's actually really easy. It's just web browser 1 dot refresh. I'm going to go back over to form. We want to do, let's see, we already have that one, so we want to do the address bar go button. For this one, we want to go ahead and do web browser 1 dot navigate, and I have to excuse how slow my typing is. I just have to, I like to autofill it because my typing is really, really slow, but I know we need to type. We're just going to do txb address, and that should, dot text, that should make it navigate to the web address that you put in there. It's not going to search for things, it navigates to a web address, much like Safari, or I think older versions of Safari. And then of course we want to go ahead and do the search button. Now this one's going to have a little bit more code because, oh, and I almost forgot, we have to make sure that we change it so that the search text disappears. So we're going to go ahead and actually do that first. Let's see, go to form 1, double click search, and we're going to change this from text changed to text to txb search dot click, and I just used that to generate this whole thing because I didn't feel like typing all of that, but also it's called text change. And so what we're going to want to put in here is if txb search dot text is equal to search, then we want to change the actual text to nothing, and we got to go ahead and put dot text equals nothing. And so when you click on it, it'll disappear and you can type what you want to type. And this will only happen if the word search is written in there and search alone. So you can write search party and it won't, mess it up. It'll just be search. If for some reason you're searching for the word search, it's gonna get rid of the word. But once again, this is a simple web browser, so there's really no reason to try and make it more advanced than we have it. There's really no need at all. And then finally, the next part is the search button. Now we have settings that are going to be between Bing and Google, and once again you can make it whatever you want, and you can have as many as you want. You just have to alter the code a little bit. But we're going to go ahead and start typing. It's going to be if my dot settings, and I think, yeah, it's going to be my dot settings dot se equals Google. Oh. Then we want to go ahead and use web browser 1 dot navigate. Oh, not name, navigate. Get our parentheses, and we want to go ahead and put in the parentheses, let's see, oh yeah, my dot settings dot Google search, or just Google. I had it set as Google search in the project that I'm referencing that I made earlier. And then we want to do, you can either do and or plus. We're going to do plus txb search dot text. And so what that'll do is it'll search with the Google engine the text that's in that actual text box. And so we want to do the same thing, so I'm just going to go ahead and copy this right here. I want to do else if my dot settings dot se equals Bing. Of course, then we want to do the Bing, and so we're just going to go ahead and change that to Bing, so that way it'll use Bing instead. And once again, all you gotta do is just add more else ifs into this and add more search engines if you'd like, or whatever search engine you want. But like I said before, I just want to use these two because they're really the two biggest ones. And I think that really should be everything as far as the coding goes. So go ahead and save the project and run it to make sure that it works. And so first thing we're going to do is we're going to click in here, and you can see that search disappeared. And so say we want to search Yahoo, because that's not one of our search engines. Go ahead and click go. And we don't have, we have a problem. Something's not working. So let's go ahead and, let's see here. Form, let's see, 2.show. I almost forgot to go ahead and change that button so that the form 2 will show when we go to click on settings. And for some reason, let's see, let's go over to our settings to make sure. SE. Okay, the value has nothing right now, but we can change that by going over to our form 2, and let's go ahead. Let's see what's going on here. So we have Google. Oh, I know what happened. I didn't really make a way so that on the first initial run the search engine would work. And so what you have to do is open up the settings and choose your search engine. So say we're going to choose Bing. Hit accept. And I forgot to also make sure that accept closes that form, so we'll change that in a minute. And so now we want to search up Yahoo, and it should search Bing for Yahoo. And so of course go back into the settings, change it to Google, hit accept, and of course we have to change that so that it closes. And now we're going to search AOL. That's another search engine, I believe, and it'll search Google for AOL. And now you see up here and down there in the bottom tells you what we're doing. So if we refresh the page, it'll say waiting, and then it'll say done. So we want to go back, I'm going to go forward, and we want to go to a address. So let's say www.youtube.com, and go ahead and click go, and it'll bring you to youtube.com. It's being a little bit slow because once again this browser is a little bit out of date, and it's just not optimized for the web like other browsers are. And then you want to go ahead and go back, and you can go back, and so it's a fully functional web browser. The only problem is I forgot rather, to make it so that after all this is done, we want to do me.close, because we can't just have it open. And so now if you save it and start it, we should have a settings tab that when you hit accept, it closes. Let's see here. For some reason, once again, it's not working. Okay, so I found the problem. The problem was that my end if was below everything, and I didn't even think of this, but it was only letting it close and save settings if Bing was checked. You know, radio button 2 is checked and the settings is Bing. And so just go ahead and make sure that your end if is above my.settings.save, my.settings.reload, and me.close.